Meet the Candidates Hour, a full hour of interviewing a candidate running for local office, learning what he or she is all about, and what they have to offer if elected.
Don Elwell and Dan Andrews, D&D Live, but it's not the regular D&D Live show. What it is Meet the Candidates. And with Meet the Candidates today, we have got Mr. Donald Ridgeway, who's running for Superintendent of Schools. Mr. Ridgeway, sir, how are you?
I'm great. I want to thank you guys for allowing us to be on the air and to share information about ourselves with the candidates, all the different candidates. I saw that when I looked at the list, you have everything under the sun on there, and allow our people in Highlands County to be informed about what we're running them for and what we believe in.
Well, certainly appreciate that. We've had some
we
really
left
good
Trump
results
off the list, but
yeah,
we'll be adding him.
We'll add him. Yeah. And Biden was yeah, we didn't invite him. Anyway, but
he's getting ice cream.
He's getting ice cream, exactly. He'll be here later. But anyway, but we do have obviously a good amount of local contested races, and yourself, of course, in a three-way race for Superintendent of Schools. And we had Dr. Longshore was on last week. I know we got Chris Doty coming up in a little bit. He was kind of a late addition, if you will. So he's going to be coming up in another month or so, or I think about another month. But in the meantime, a lot of folks, I mean, I've seen you, I know you, been known you for a few years. And of course, if you've been to any of the Sebring High School graduations, it's the guy that reads all the names. You can't miss that.
That is some names. Woo,
there's a lot of names.
Of fun.
There's some names there. I'm just like, better you than me on that one for sure. But in any case, why don't you introduce yourself to the world here and tell everybody a little bit about you and your background?
All right, well, my name is Donald Ridgeway. I am born and raised here in Highlands County. I grew up in Lake Placid, went through, schools through Lake Placid Elementary, Lake Placid Middle School, Lake Placid High School, graduated in 1996. My family has some pretty deep roots here in Highlands County. My grandmother was the owner of the Lake Placid Journal. From 1954 through 2014. It was actually owned by my great-grandparents, Emmeline and Lamont Moore. And then when they passed away, my grandmother took over. And pretty much we all worked there, cousins and everybody. We stuffed newspapers. I was literally a paper boy. I walked. If you ask the businesses in Lake Placid, I walked up and down the street, stood in front of Publix, sold my newspapers, that sort of thing.
Nice.
And so I grew up here. I've been a part of it my whole life. I knew from the time I graduated high school that I wanted to be an educator. I thank that to Tony Stivender, who kind of put that into my ear when I was in 10th grade biology. So I do appreciate that from her. And it's funny when they do the newspaper articles about, they used to do bios for each senior. Mine actually, it was sent to me by my cousin Susie Delaney. She said she sent it to me, and it said that I wanted to go to UCF, major in elementary school education, and become the head football coach at Lake Placid High School. I did not go to UCF. I did teach a year of elementary, but I never became a head football coach. So I did some of those things. So I feel like that was pretty successful. I am a family man. I'm married to the love of my life, Elizabeth Ridgeway. She is an instructional technology resource teacher with the School Board of Highlands County. She actually serves Lake Placid Elementary and Lake Placid Middle School. She is incredibly talented. She also owns her own business. This is a little plug for her. Pink Magnolia Designs. There you go, Liz. You'll be happy there. I do have two children. One is his name's Kinston. He's 16 years old, and he goes to Sebring High School. He's also a dual enrollment student as well. So his goal is to graduate high school with his AA before going to UF. And he plays on the Blue Streak football team, which it took me a little bit to go Blue Streaks after being a Dragon my whole life, but
you learned.
I have learned, and
All
I've
right.
embraced it, and I actually enjoy it now.
And their football team's doing pretty well lately too.
Yes, and it's very good. And then I have a 5-year-old daughter. So I have a 16 and a 5. Yes.
What? My gosh.
Yes, the math is correct there.
Are we done now?
Oh yes.
Okay.
That is a definite. I was not ready for you to say that. My daughter Magnolia, she's awesome. She is going to be starting kindergarten this year at Lake Placid Elementary School. So it's a great ride. So I'm fully vested into the community. My sister, she teaches science at Lake Placid Middle. My brother, he works as a course recovery teacher at Lake Placid Middle School.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law is a guidance resource teacher at Lake Placid Middle. My wife, ITRT. I have a cousin that works there. At one point, I think we cornered the market at Lake Placid Middle when I was there as a dean. I didn't think that happened anywhere until I went to Sebring High School and met all the Raps and realized, oh man, no, there's lots of people that families. But
sure.
So that's a little bit of background about me.
Very good. Very good. All right, we're gonna kind of alternate questions as we go along. By the way, if you would like to ask a question, you have to text it in to me. You can text it to 381-5622. You may certainly do that. I have received, I know, a couple of those, and so we will work those in hopefully as the show goes on. In the meantime, Dan, you're next.
So why don't we just dive in and tell us a little bit about your history with the Highlands County School Board and from a teaching aspect, what were your roles there and what led you ultimately to make the decision to run for public office?
It's a great question. So I started teaching, or excuse me, I started in the School of Highlands County in 1996. So I graduated in 1996. That December, I became a substitute teacher. Actually, one of my first jobs was at Woodlawn Elementary. I worked a lot with the self-contained ESC classes, particularly the behavior units. I was a young guy, big guy. Wasn't too worried about being called names or whatnot. And so I worked a lot of those classes, and I can remember one such experience. We went out for recess, and I played kickball with the kids, and it was my turn to kick, and I kicked the ball through the portable window, and I kind of went into Rick Demery's office.
So that's the start of your teaching career.
Yeah. So it went uphill from there. That's a good thing, right? And so I went into Rick Demery's office, and I thinking, oh man, I'm probably never getting another job here again.
Yeah.
And I actually subbed there pretty much every chance they had. He was like, not many teachers go out and play at recess with that group of kids, and
sure.
You're building relationships, and that's kind of what my background has been on as being a coach and being a teacher. Is I build relationships with kids really easily, and so after that, I finished my bachelor's degree from Warner Southern College. Went on. I actually graduated in December, and I got hired on by Miss Whidden at Sebring Middle School, and they didn't have a classroom for me, so I was on a cart, and every 2 periods I went from classroom to classroom, where I guess they had a rotation of deans, so those deans were doing their dean work, so their classroom was empty. So
wow.
I think I wrote down the names. It's been a really long time, but I believe I was in Mr. Libby's class, Miss Kramer's class, Miss Katina Kramer, and then I was in Mr. Brownell's class. So I traveled with a cart with books, and so I was that rotational teacher that just moved around. It was crazy. And then I worked for a year teaching self-contained ESE at Lake Placid Elementary, and then I moved over to Lake Placid Middle School, where I spent 16 years there. I spent during that time, I spent 10 years in the classroom teaching science, taught a little bit of math. I got certified in middle grades integrated. That was a curriculum or a endorsement that the state came up with because they were short on teachers in certain areas, and so I got that certification, which allowed me to teach all the subjects.
Right.
And so that was a pretty cool experience there. Then I moved into the role for a year as an academic coach and dean, and then I became a full-time dean for 5 years. After that, I moved to Sebring Middle School and was a dean there, and then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, I had applied for a position at Sebring High School. Eileen Eshelman was retiring, and so I applied for that position, and I got it, and I've been the assistant principal at Sebring High School for the last 4 years. And so you asked me, Dan, why?
Yeah, what led you to
Well, it was something. I'll be honest. I prayed about it for a long time. People had talked to me about running, and I'm not a political guy. I'll tell you that first and foremost. I'm not very political.
It's good. Neither are we.
Which the problem with that is you're in politics, so it's hard to not be political when you're in politics. But I'm just not very political. So no offense to you, Don.
Yeah, no, great, thanks.
Yeah, no offense to you. I know that you're a politician.
One of those scumbags.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Wow.
He said it, not me.
Didn't have to take it there, but that's fine.
Wow,
that's good.
And I may have something to do about breakfast. I don't know. But over the last few years, you can watch a board meeting online and you can see the what seems to be a lack of trust, lack of transparency that the community has towards where we're at in education and in our county, and so that made me kind of lead to that.
Okay, well, we're kind of just scratching the surface here of that part of it, and we'll get into a little bit more. But I'm looking here, and of course, we're talking with not doctor. I keep wanting to give you a doctorate, by the way.
No, I'll take it.
It sounds like
Congratulations.
with the history that you have, it sounds like you pretty much ought to have an honorary, at least in kickball. Anyway, so we're talking, of course, with Donald Ridgeway, candidate for Highlands County Superintendent of Schools, who is promising transparency, communication, and collaboration for change. We're going to find out a little bit more about that in just a minute or two as Meet the Candidates continues. D&D Live Meet the Candidates series continues with Mr. Donald Ridgeway, candidate for Superintendent of Schools, and I keep wanting to. I think you hit it with your initials with the whole doctor thing, DR. I think that probably was it. That's the excuse I'm going to use anyway. And yeah, we're going to go.
You can call me doctor. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. All right.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Yeah. No problem at all. Well, after you said that you don't like politicians, Mr. Ridgeway, let's talk a little bit about. Obviously, as you mentioned, you kind of felt you had a little bit of a calling to do this, and you had some folks that were kind of urging you to run as well. There's reasons. I mean, there's certainly reasons. What do you think that's not happening, either with the superintendent or the administration, that needs to happen? What are the things that you've identified as things that you need to change?
So ideas that I have to change. Obviously, we as a district, performance-wise, we rank 60 out of 67 counties. We're about 11% from the bottom. When I pulled some data, this is actually the second time this has happened. It happened in 2017, 2018 as well. And then over the last 10 years, the best we've reached is 53 out of 67. And so, knowing that is one of the things. We have great teachers. I've been in multiple schools. I see the teachers. I see how hard they work. I see what they're doing. And so just knowing that is there, wanting to get the best out of our kids, and having a solid vision builds how we go about that. And I think it all starts with building a culture and having those relationships. I'm a natural relationship builder type of guy, and also I believe in having that nurturing environment. I think we do well at that already, but how do we go ahead and expand upon that? I think that looking at the superintendent's job and duty, I also have a strong belief that in term limits, so that's a little different thing. I believe that 8 years should be maximum that a person should be in a position of political office.
You hear that, Don? 8.
Well, I mean, the president can only run for 8, so I mean, why not? And so I just feel like that is an area as well. It gives new ideas, new more innovation, brings about change. And ultimately, if we're 60 out of 67, if the highest ranking we've gotten is 53, change is needed. And so we need to take a look, maybe revamp some things, look at what are some of the best practices that we're doing. Are they working? How do we target those lowest performing students so we can get them to a higher level? And then also, looking at our staff, making sure that we are paying them so that they want to be here. And teacher retention is a huge issue that we have. And, we have to work with county commissioners and state legislators to find out how can we provide housing that's median income housing. I mean, if you're a brand new teacher out of college and you have to pay first, last, and security, you're looking at dropping $3,000 easily.
Probably closer to 6 these days. Yeah.
Well, right, and I was just being conservative on that side of it. And so you have somebody coming out of college, that's difficult. And so how do we come up with some median income housing? How do we, and I'm not talking about low income, I'm talking about the median income, because really it's difficult right now to find a place to live. And last year I had the opportunity to, or maybe it was the year before last, we have TPG, which is teachers from out of the country. They came in, and a lot of them didn't know how to drive. They were from other countries, from Jamaica and some of the islands, and there was 9 of them, and I taught them how to drive. It was interesting because they drive on the other side of the road. So
do some of our residents. Our residents do too. So that's,
right, yeah, and so when I took them out driving and got to hear a little bit about that and what they were doing, it was definitely eye opening to hear their perspective coming from a different country to what we have here, and just the cultural change that is there.
Gotcha.
So, Donald, you touched on a little bit how important and how great of an asset our teachers are, and over the past couple of years, we've heard and seen that the pay scale for new teachers has really raised. I think it's competitive now, but what has happened is it's created a hole in the teachers that have been there for years, and I'm not sure on the exact tenure that's an issue, but I hear it's kind of that middle tenure for teachers. So what would you do as superintendent to bridge that gap and adjust the tenured teachers' pay to be what it should be relative to the new teachers?
So, like I said earlier, I believe that we need to come in with new ideas, new initiatives. Asking the community, what do you think we can do? Because ultimately, it comes from taxpayer dollars to be able to pay for education. The governor did just put out this year $1.25 billion towards education across the state. If you do the math on that, there's 164,000 teachers in Florida. So if you do the math on that doesn't really equate to a large amount of money that goes to each teacher across the board.
Is all that money allocated to staff salaries?
That was
1.2 staff.
Yeah, it's allocated to that, and so we were able to bump up the teacher salary. The beginning teacher salary, but in the process over the years, we've actually compressed those steps, and so those steps have gone away, and so and it's very difficult to make that move. My brother-in-law works in the private sector, and so in the private sector, each year you get evaluation, and after evaluation you did well, okay, so you get a bump in pay. And I tell him, like, no, that's not really how it works. And he's like, what do you mean? This is how it works. I'm like, no, it's not how it works. And he just could not fathom how the educational pay worked and that sort of thing. And it's part of being in education. I don't like the topic where people say, well, teachers knew that they weren't going to be rich when they got into it. Teachers also didn't think that they were going to have to work 2 or 3 jobs to be able to make ends meet as well. And so I think that we need to find ways, be creative in how we go about paying our teachers. Also, I think it's great that our support staff, the governor said $15 an hour for our support staff. That is fantastic, because some of those people that are in those support roles, they do things across our schools that if they didn't do them, I don't know if they would be able to get done. And so being able to pay them what they deserve is essential. And honestly, they deserve some more money. I mean, some of those teachers, some of those non-instructional employees, when we have substitutes, they fill in as teachers. They're doing the job, and because we don't have enough, especially when COVID was around, we just didn't have enough people that were doing the sub job.
Sure, absolutely. Now, you had mentioned, of course, and we've had this discussion in previous weeks, that, Highlands County, the education system, we're ranking in that bottom 10%, if you will, like 60th, I think, 67 or so, and I know that we have no D or F schools, although I did hear that the criteria has kind of changed a little bit also, which is one of the reasons why we don't probably have some of the D and F schools, because maybe the grading system itself may have fluctuated a little bit. If that being the case, A, tell me if that's correct, and then B, if you would, tell me, okay, what would be the immediate things that you might employ to try to get us into that next 10% up, or try to get the improvement, really kind of starting to skyrocket?
So that's a great question, and you mentioned the fact that that with our teachers, they're doing great jobs. They're doing some amazing things out there, but we need to get our parents involved, because really they're our number one asset. If we can get parents involved, get them understanding the purpose of what we're doing, why we're doing it. Also working with younger age kids, so when they come into school, they're a little bit further ahead, because honestly, when you look at what kindergarten standards are now, they're not what they were 10 years ago.
Sure.
And so those kids need to have that early education starting in pre-K. And we do offer that through the School Board of Highlands County. There's a number of pre-K centers around the area that offer that as well. And then also we need to really focus on those struggling students and assuring that we have targeted interventions. We have MTSS, which is multi-tiered systems of support, where we those kids fall into those areas, and making sure that we are providing the best interventions possible. I know that we do target those kids, and we do look at that, but are we giving them the best interventions that are out there? And then just the incumbent last week mentioned poverty. Poverty does play a role. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, I look at that kind of as an excuse, because there are 23 counties that actually are more impoverished than we are, that had a higher rate of higher scores than we did. So that is the case. And so last year was a provisional year. So we had new testing, the FAST and the BEST, and so those cut scores and things like that hadn't been developed yet. You're going to see I'm hoping this year we're going to have an improvement, because last year we didn't have the ability to have the increase if a student did better from one year to the next. That wasn't there, and so I believe that's where you start to see have those interventions worked, and seeing some of that. So I'm hoping this year we're going to see some of those learning gains being employed, but also making sure that we enhance our resource allocations. I believe that we need to use our district office. We have specialists at the district level that we need to get them into our schools as much as possible. They do come to our schools, but getting them there as often as possible, so that because they're the best of the best, and with as many subs as we have on campuses, they really need to be working with those subs directly, because our coaches that are at schools, and I'm not talking about PE coaches, I'm talking about our academic coaches. Those academic coaches, a lot of times they are pulled into classrooms as well. So where they're able to teach and to help, they're not able to as much. So getting those resources at the district level down to the school level is important.
Very good. All right. Well, we are going to, we're of course talking with Dr.
Yeah, no, you call it.
I continue to give you the honorary doctorate. I apologize. We're talking with Donald Ridgeway, Superintendent of Schools candidate. He is hard running, and we have got a couple of listener questions that I know that Dan is going to be chomping at the bit to get into here as we continue our Meet the Candidates series with Mr. Ridgeway. Just a moment. Meet the Candidates series continues as we are talking with Donald Ridgeway, candidate for Superintendent of Schools. And we've got a few listener questions. Dan, go ahead and kick us off here.
Yeah, so Donald, we'll just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off.
Fun.
So here's a question we received from the listening audience. Do you currently, or have you in the past, had litigation with the Highlands County School Board or Superintendent of Schools?
That is a great question. No.
Okay.
So it's an easy one, and I would actually there is a rumor out there. I put a Google form out because I wanted to find out what is it that teachers, community stakeholders, what is it that they all are looking for? What is it that they find to be an issue? And so I made it anonymous. And so on there, one of them was, quit trying to sue the school board. So I went on my Facebook page for superintendent, and I put on there, listen, my wife and I were not suing anybody. If you don't believe that, I encourage you to do a public records request at the School Board of Highlands County, and Sunshine Law says that they have to show you that. And I can tell you there is no lawsuits.
Okay. Very good.
Oh, that's good. All right, very good. Next question. What three things specifically would you address first if elected?
All right, so I knew you were going to ask me something sort of like this. So, my first three things I think that I would look at first and foremost is just a culture change, getting people back to believing in the system, and I think that starts with going into our communities, some of our communities. Visiting them, going out and having forums where they're at. Sometimes, they're not going to come to you. They're not going to come to the school board. They do if they have a problem. But if you want to really share that message, you need to get out to a church. You need to get out to a community center and really share the message of what we're trying to do and how you, as an individual, maybe you're a community member, maybe you're just a grandma, maybe whatever it may be, how can you help us help your kids? And it starts with that cultural standpoint. Secondly, I think we need to look at the continuing with our CTE program. Scott Morgan, he's our CTE guru. He's the head of CTE. He has brought in all kinds of different CTE programs, and CTE is career and technical education, those you don't know. And interesting, I saw Mike Rowe on a TikTok. Don't hurt me, those of you non-TikTok people, but he had mentioned he was on a podcast, and he said that for every 5 tradesmen that retire each year, it is only being replaced with 2. So,
oh, wow.
So if you think about that, your plumbers, your electricians, your AC repair, body collision, you name it, those are some things that we are hurting for. And I'll tell you, for us, as a school setting, we have the opportunity. Adam Putnam, who used to be the former Commissioner of Education, U.S. House Representative, he is the CEO for Ducks Unlimited. And through our environmental science classes at the high school, our students they actually have the curriculum created to the T, and everything set up. And if we use that and students get certified through that Ducks Unlimited program, we get acceleration points for our schools. And so how does that improve our school district? Simple. There's a simple manner right there through acceleration points, through industry certification points to be able to get that. And so I feel like we are missing some of those kids that maybe are not taking dual enrollment AP, IB classes, that we could hit those with an environmental science class. It doesn't have to be honors, and it's available. It's right there at our fingertips. And then, like I said, push to increase pay for teachers and for our non-instructional staff. just to be real, if a person is moving from Ohio, I'm just using Ohio as a state because I know we do go to Ohio, Indiana, Midwest to look for teachers. If they're coming from there and they have to move down here and they have a higher pay up there, the beach is great, but we're still an hour and a half from the beach. Is that the only thing that's going to draw them here? If they can make more money there. So we have to find a way that we can get our pay to a higher level, because the reality is we rank really high in the state of Florida for beginning teacher salary, but we are 50 out of 51 at the median teacher salary. So we have to work on that. And so those are the three things that I think we need to work on. And also just ensuring that our non-instructional staff, they are being noticed and they are being appreciated with pay as well.
Okay.
Very good.
So, we're here with Donald Ridgeway, candidate for Superintendent of Highlands County Schools. And next question I have for you, Donald, is it is perceived that the role of superintendent is the CEO of the school board. And with that comes the largest budget in the county of in excess of $240 million. What do you feel, or what skills do you have that you can bring to the table to manage a budget that size?
So I'm going to be first to tell you, $248 million budget, I don't know a single person that can single-handedly manage that. So it takes a team of people. And being a coach...
I can single-handedly spend it.
Oh, well, no doubt.
So can my wife.
Bro, you beat me to the punch, man. My wife would be like, oh, I got that.
See, you were doing well earlier, and now you're sleeping outside again.
Yeah. So, sorry, honey. Anyways, but that $248 million budget right there, I believe it takes a team of a team of staff to be able to do that. You look at our finance department, it's not run by one person, and so the job of the superintendent really is to ensure that we are getting those taxpayer dollars, we're spending them in a way that is fiscally responsible. I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't want to spend money that we don't have. I don't want to get up there and put ourselves in debt and things like that. I don't believe in that. But I do believe that the role of that person, they need to go into it with the aspect of, I can't do it all on my own. I'm going to bring ideas to the table. So in terms of what I've done, I've worked as an athletic director, as a coach. I was the president of the Lake Placid Athletic Association for a number of years. I actually am, my wife and I are business owners. She owns, like I said, Pink Magnolia Designs. I own a barbecue business, a catering company called Old Ball Coach Barbecue and Catering. And so, we handle budgets with that as well. Nothing in regards to $248 million, but I believe that my ideals, what I believe in as a fiscal conservative, and ensuring that the taxpayer dollars are being spent the right way, and then taking that information, relaying it to the board, because really the board is who handles that budget. And then also, and here's the transparency part of it, ensuring that the people who are paying those taxes understand where that money's going and how it's being spent and why we're spending it in the way we are. Sometimes we say, hey, we're going to spend it in this way. A couple years ago, Carnegie Learning was a huge thing that we brought in. It cost lots and lots of money. People didn't understand why it was essential. I worked with them for the last year or 2 years. Carnegie Learning was great, but it took us having to explain to people why it's important. And so getting them to understand the why is essential. So managing the $248 million budget is important, yes, but really, how do we relay that to everybody, all stakeholders?
No, very good. All right, here's one. This is a fun one.
Oh, I love fun ones.
This is good. Being an advocate for wanting to change things up with the administration and wanting to change from what's being currently done. 3 candidates now are running for re-election. So therefore, if there are votes for change, do you think that there's enough votes for change that one of the three of you, or one of the two challengers, can upset the incumbent because of the fact that you'll be splitting the anti-incumbent votes between the two of you?
But that's a great question. And so I keep saying it's a great question. I mean,
it's your go-to.
Yeah. Well, later on we'll ask you your favorite color. Go ahead.
Oh, that's a great question too. Clear. Oh, that's not a color. I'm just kidding. The question at hand, splitting those votes. Do we think that is it possible? I believe that anything's possible. I look at this. I'm a believer in Lord Jesus Christ, and I believe that His will be done in this. No matter how hard I push, no matter how hard Chris pushes, no matter how hard Brenda pushes, at the end of the day, it's not going to be decided necessarily by how hard we push. It's going to be the Lord's will. And so that's kind of how I go into what I do each and every day, and I just going to work my hardest, and we'll see what happens, see where the chips fall. August 20th is the day of the election. I know ballots come out sooner than that, and early voting happens sooner than that. It is a universal election, so everybody gets the chance to vote, which I think is great anyways, just because it gives independents, it gives the people that are Democrats, everybody a chance to vote on who is going to be the leader of their district, and in that aspect.
Very good. Talking, of course, with Donald Ridgeway, candidate for Superintendent of Schools, and we've got some more questions, couple more heavier ones, and then, of course, a couple of lighter ones, not the color question. We'll do something different than that as D&D Live Meet the Candidates continues. Donna Elwell, Dan Andrews, D&D Live Meet the Candidates series with Donald Ridgeway, candidate for Superintendent of Schools. Got a couple more meaty questions that are going to be awesome, and then, of course, a couple later ones afterwards. Mr. Andrews?
Sure, if you would turn on my microphone. There we go. Thank you, Don. So about 2 years ago, we had a little dust up over health education, sex education, and the IMAD program. It seems as though that's been resolved to a certain extent, but at what grade do you believe sex education should be taught in the school system, and what would that curriculum include?
That is a fantastic question. So not great, it's fantastic.
Wow, you have the best one so far.
Yeah, you know what? Don wanted me to say it was mediocre. I refuse to do so. Just kidding. So I really believe that sex education talk should start about 7th grade. Honestly, when you look at K6 is usually elementary is what in the past days that's what it was. A lot of our certifications are K6. So I think 7 through 12 should be the area it should be. I believe that the content should be about 99.8% abstinence-based. Literally, it should be abstinence-based. I mean, there's enough of the other stuff in radio, not you guys, but on the radio, the music that people listen to, TikTok video, you name what the medium is that kids are listening to and watching and everything else, there's enough sex built into it that it's important that we are pushing out the abstinence as much as possible and abstaining. But I also believe that that 0.2%, there needs to be talk about what happens if you don't abstain, because there are consequences if you don't abstain. Now, what could those consequences be? I don't think you should have an open-ended discussion about that. I'll tell you, when IMAD came about, I was a dean of students at Lake Placid Middle School. I had concerns because we did ours in a whole group in the cafeteria, mixed boys and girls. And one of my things was like, listen, maybe we should do a small group. And like, no, we want to do it, get it done, it's out of there. And at one point, there was they allowed kids to ask open-ended questions. They write it on a piece of paper and they gave it. And I was in there. There were some teachers in the room. I was the dean, kind of trying to control sex education talk, and the giggles and everything else that was going on. And there was a very controversial question that was asked that I was like, I don't think this is going to be right. And I heard the person that was holding the microphone say something to the other person in the room if he should ask the question. And he was about to ask it. And I said, nope, we're done. All right, teachers, so-and-so, you take your kids back to class. So-and-so, take your kids back to class. I actually got told they have the floor. I'm not allowed to do that.
No.
And I was kind of upset about that because I felt like, I wasn't reprimanded or anything like that, but I was told, like, listen, they are allowed to come in and have their presentation. That was what I was told. And so I was like, okay. And even after I told them what the question was, I'm not going to say it on the air because this is a G-rated show, hopefully. I just felt like those open-ended questions, they cannot be there because there are some kids that know a lot and there are some kids that don't. I also believe that, there should be things that are taught at home, but at the same time, there's a lot of families that they don't teach that at home. And so I think abstinence is the way to go.
Okay. All right, I'm going to give you a real quick one, unfortunately, because I want to make sure you got time to wrap up and some softer questions. But this is going to be a real fast one. Do you have any thoughts regarding the disciplinary action regarding Chris Doty?
Well, that's not an easy question.
No.
So I'll say this. I have read through some of the information. I've looked at it. It has been investigated at the district level. It's been investigated at the state level. From what I've heard, it's now becoming a formal investigation where they'll sit down and discuss that. My concern with that is if Chris was to win and they take away his license or whatever may happen. I don't know what will happen. I've never been in that aspect. What happens then? Does the governor step in and say, you are no longer allowed to be the superintendent? He has the authority to do that.
But a teaching certificate is not a requirement to run for superintendent, right?
Right.
Okay.
But
I just want that to be out there.
But in terms of that being ethical, in terms of some of the things it does. And so I just think that is an area I don't want to step into too much, but at the same time, it is a concern. If he does win, he is very popular. He's very polarizing. He has lots of support in the area. And I will tell you, he is there.
Okay. So let's softball this a little bit after that doozy there of a question. Thank you, Don. But
no problem.
Here in Highlands County, we have a lot of restaurants.
Yeah. And
we want to know, what's your favorite restaurant outside of your own catering business?
Yeah.
Okay, so I heard that question asked through 3 other interviews, so I kind of broke it down into, because there's 3 meals in a day. So,
go ahead.
I enjoy breakfast, sometimes lunch. Morty and Edna's,
nice.
Lake Placid, Sebring. They have both locations. Serve great breakfast. I would say I visited the Gator Shack for the first time this weekend, and it was awesome.
Okay.
So I'd say Gator Shack is a place to go as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually went there last night, so good call. All right, so if you would, let's make sure you kind of ask for the vote and wrap up why people should vote for Donald Ridgeway for Superintendent of Schools.
So I would say I'm the guy that's out there that I'm an everyday guy. I'm not a politician. I'm not wanting to be a politician. I want to be there to serve your kids, to serve our teachers, to serve you. I believe that as a superintendent of schools, you have a lot of responsibility. You have a lot of opportunities to make change and to make growth. And I believe that I have some ideas. I have some aspects in my personal qualities that will allow me to listen to other stakeholders instead of saying I know everything. I want to listen and take in as much knowledge as possible, and then try to disseminate that to our staff and build a culture where people believe that they can be successful and know that they can be successful.
Very good. Okay. And how can people get in touch with you? How can they contact you?
Well, then contact me through my website. It's votedonaldridgeway.com. And I also have social media. My Facebook is, I believe it's Donald Ridgeway for Superintendent. If you go onto the votedonaldridgeway.com, there's a spot on the bottom where you can put some information in. It goes directly to my email, and then I get back to you. During the days, I'm doing driver's ed, so it usually is at night. Don't worry, guys. The kids, I told them, only stay in the parking lot today. I'm just kidding.
Great. My car's been hit.
No. They're really good at just bumping them. No, but there's no one driving right now. I promise.
That's good.
But, no, that's the way to get a hold of us.
Fantastic. All right, very good. Again, Donald Ridgeway for Superintendent of Schools. We certainly appreciate you being here, and we'll see you again, I think, when we have our big debates between all the candidates coming up fairly soon. We're going to be talking about that, making a little announcement on that, I think, during tomorrow's show. Don't forget, of course, next week there is no show as far as the Meet the Candidates goes, because it is the 4th of July, Independence Day. We will miss out on that particular show. We'll be back again on the 11th, and we'll tell you all about that as we go along. D&D Live, of course, tomorrow at 8 a.m. Look for the exact same intro music you heard today. We look forward to being there for that. We certainly appreciate y'all listening today as well, and becoming a more informed voter, as we've got some candidates to talk to, and the race for Superintendent of Schools is going to be one of the more important ones on the local ballot for sure. August 20th is Election Day. August 10th is early voting, and sometime next month, if you're doing the vote by mail absentee slash absentee voting, your opportunity will be then as well. But he'll be on all the ballots. They'll all be on all the ballots. So make sure that you are there for the open primary. Mr. Andrews, thank you for being here, sir.
My pleasure.
We certainly appreciate it. Mr. Ridgeway, thank you again.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all.
All right. Good questions. Good answers.
Great questions.
Talk to you again very soon. D&D Live, we're out, and we'll see you soon.